Good evening. Welcome to WWCNC News. I am Bob Chadford. COVID-19. It's a thing you may have heard about recently. The deadly virus has killed over 700,000 Americans to date, more than any other country in the world. Although Brazil and India are really giving it the old college try, as you can see there. America recently passed its death toll from the 1918 Spanish flu pandemic that killed 675,000 Americans. Seriously? Jerry, are these numbers correct? We beat 1918. You've got to be kidding me. The numbers are staggering. Just as staggering are the vaccine rates. Currently, the United States is hovering around 50th in the world in terms of the percentage of the population that is fully vaccinated, with a mere 55% of the country so far being big boys and girls willing to take their medicine for the greater good. So how is that possible? There are more than enough vaccines to go around. One could argue that with our supply, we should be the most vaccinated country in the world. But there we are in 50th. Why? I, Bob Chadford, America's most trusted fake news anchor, would say it's a deadly combination of mistrust, misinformation, and general silliness. Sure, blatant disregard for the truth and misinformation peddling for political gain are one thing, and mistrust in our leaders is also leading to low vaccine rates. But the flip side could be the trust people are placing in so-called miracle cures. The latest of those is flying off the shelves at veterinary clinics all over the country. Ivermectin, the drug, manufactured by Merck Pharmaceuticals, is being touted by pillars of the medical community, such as Kyrie Irving, Marjorie Taylor Greene, and Donald Trump Jr., as a cure for the deadly COVID virus. The award-winning drug, originally designed to prevent malaria and parasitic worms with bleach allergies, has seen its sales increase 37,000% in the last 3 months, and poison control centers across the country are being swamped with calls. So why are people taking it? Why won't they just take an approved vaccine? Why do they trust snake oil cures instead? Democratic leaders are saying that it is Republicans, like Governor Ron DeSantis of Florida, who are propagating the lies about COVID for political gain. Governor DeSantis was not available for comment, as we here at WWCNC News have not had time to draw him yet. So we had to settle for another, less prominent but likely more interesting Florida Republican, fully drawn, self-proclaimed firebrand, and possible raging pervert, Matt Gaetz. Congressman, thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me, bro.
As I just mentioned, the COVID-19 pandemic recently surpassed the Spanish flu pandemic of 1918 in terms of the number of Americans killed, and the governor of your state is anti-masks and pushing monoclonal antibody treatments harder than he is pushing for vaccines. He even went so far to say that he's thinking about lifting mandates on vaccines for much more deadly diseases like mumps, measles, bubonic plague, as well as large, medium, and smallpox, or as they are known in Italy, ventipox, grande pox, and tallpox. Do you think that his approach, which echoes the approach of many of your Republican colleagues, is the best way to handle this public health nightmare?
Look, Bob, I'm going to be straight with you. As America's most trusted fake news anchor, I owe that to you. And I'm just honored to be on the show. It's like a dream.
Glad to have you.
Okay, dude, so here's the thing. This isn't about public health. This is about freedom and free speech, and not having the government impose its will on its citizens.
So you're opposed to any and all public health measures?
I certainly am.
Which rights do they specifically violate?
My right to an ultra-paranoid voting base made up of unvaccinated conspiracy theorists, for one. This pandemic, it's a great way to divide people. I mean, in terms of riling up our base, this thing is a godsend. And the mask thing, I mean, people just eat that crap up. The more the people get the jab, the less of them there are to howl about freedom. And therefore, the less of them there are to scare into voting for me.
That's incredibly forthcoming of you.
I tell it like it is. I'm a firebrand. That's what us firebrands do, Bob. We spew fire and truth and other things I won't talk about that a vaccine would certainly help with. The truth is that I have a right to divide people with my lies and rhetoric. If that's what my base wants, and if that's what they are, and that's what gets them to the polls, then that's my right. And Biden and the Democrats are attempting to destroy that right by helping people not die. It's an infringement of our most basic freedoms.
So, if your only motivations are to rile up voters, as opposed to being concerned about a public health catastrophe, then that begs the question. Do you actually think that masks, vaccines, social distancing, hand sanitizer, and all of these public health measures actually work in combating the spread of COVID?
Of course they do, Bob. You'd have to be a complete moron to think that putting a mask on and staying away from other people and washing your hands and getting vaccines wouldn't help stop the spread of a virus. You'd literally have to have an IQ of 6 to argue that. The fact that my bro Ronnie D convinced so many people of it in our state shows what a great politician he is. But like I said, this is about my God-given right to scare people into votes. And honestly, if they want to shove ivermectin, whatever they drill down their throats, or mayonnaise up their butts for that matter, then that is their God-given right as Americans to do so. All I worry is that all of these unvaccinated people going the butt mail route is going to end up killing too many of them before the midterms, you know?
Okay then. Congressman, I had a whole bunch of other questions I was going to throw at you to challenge you and your party in regards to the COVID-19 pandemic. But honestly, I think that what you just said about it all being about your freedom to lie and scare people into voting for you really just sums up everything you and your colleagues are doing. Like, perfectly. If that's the case, you are an extremely effective bunch of liars and pricks, I must say.
Thanks, Bob. You're too kind.
That was not a compliment. What's your favorite kind of ice cream?
When it comes to lactose, much like immigrants and hanging out with women over 19, I'm completely intolerant, unfortunately, bro.
That's a perfect segue, Mr. Gaetz, because I would like to ask you about the allegations that you're a big old raging pervert.
Here we go again. Fake news, Bob. But you know what? I will answer any and all questions you have with no fear. That's what us firebrands do.
Did you pay underage women for sex?
Not that I can recall.
Did you travel with a, quote, 17-year-old woman, as you described one accuser of being?
Nah, big news.
Do you consider a 17-year-old girl a woman?
Almost.
You've been accused of having parties with prominent Florida Republicans where you took illegal narcotics and paid for sex with multiple women. Is that true? Congressman?
What was the question?
Did you do illegal drugs and pay for sex, possibly with underage girls, at parties you threw with other prominent Republicans?
No, none of those women were underage girls. All of them were 18. A couple were even 19, maybe.
And the drug use?
What about it?
I assumed you were going to call it fake news.
Oh, right. Fake news.
Did you transfer money on the Venmo app to Joel Greenberg?
I did, but it was totally not for sex.
What was it for?
Like I've said repeatedly, bro, it was for tuition and books for school.
Why were you paying the tuition for these young women?
Like I have also said, also repeatedly, they were my girlfriends, bro. And yeah, maybe I'm a little too generous to my girlfriends, especially the 18-year-old ones. But that's just how I am. That's what the money was for, tuition, and not for, all that other normal girlfriend stuff they did to me and my bros and each other sometimes.
And you made these payments on the Venmo app? Can you confirm that bit of reporting?
True. I use Venmo for a lot of my minor purchases. You know what I mean? Huh? Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. Say no more. Say no more.
My God. Mr. Gaetz, let's say there was an app you could use to arrange and pay for prostitution. What would you call it?
I would call it Uber Skeets.
What about Hordash, Congressman? Don't you think that's a slightly better name than Uber Skeets?
It absolutely is, Bob. Hordash. Honestly, that's brilliant. That's why you're the man everybody trusts, Bob.
Congressman, you were sniffling a lot. Have you been snorting cocaine?
Dude, I'm going for all-you-can-eat wings with my new bride, Ginger, as soon as I'm done this interview. You think I'm going to be doing blow before that?
I suppose not.
Would totally kill my appetite, dude.
How's the new marriage going?
So far, so good.
And how does your wife feel about the allegations we just discussed, out of curiosity?
She's fine with it. She knows it's fake news. At 26, she's obviously very old and wise. Very, very old.
That reminds me. You claimed that the recent indictment of Stephen Alford for extortion in an attempted plot to blackmail your rich daddy for $25 million in exchange for helping you secure a pardon for sex trafficking of a minor is an exoneration for you.
That's right.
Why did he think he could extort you for that?
That's a good question, Bob.
Do you have a good answer? How do you extort someone for something that never happened?
Let's go with something Hunter Biden or Deep State or whatever.
Maybe it's time to stop hanging around with Marjorie Taylor Greene so much?
Probably.
I'd like to thank you for your time, Congressman.
My pleasure, Bob. So you coming for wings or what?
I could eat, but if you look up in the top corners of the screen, you'll notice that I am in New York and you are in Miami.
Oh, right. Too bad, dude.
Too bad indeed. Enjoy your wings. By the way, do you have a favorite flavor? Honey garlic? Buffalo? Teriyaki, perhaps?
Actually, mint chocolate chip, Bob.
Interesting. Thank you for being here, Mr. Gaetz.
My pleasure, Bob. Thanks for having me.
There you have it. Matt Gaetz. He doesn't mince words. He spews things, and he agrees that Hordash is a slightly better name than Uber Skeets. Let us know in the comments which one you prefer, or if you have any better ideas. But let's be honest, Hordash is going to be incredibly difficult to top. I'd like to thank you for joining us tonight. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already, so you don't miss our next episode, when our guest will be Republican Minority House Leader and cover model for Resting Douche Face magazine, Kevin McCarthy. I will ask him about his stance in recent comments on the January 6th insurrection, whether or not he's openly committing obstruction of justice by threatening companies who comply with congressional subpoenas, and who the hell Steve Bannon thinks he is. You can find us on the interwebs at WWCNCnews.com and follow me, Bob Chadford, America's most trusted fake news anchor, on Twitter at Bob Chadford. Thank you for tuning in. Good night, Godspeed, goodbye, and good luck.